And there was a bit of an irony here, David Remnick, at the end of the week, after the House first failed before they then passed legislation. Many of the House leaders said, well, the president should go act on his own, even though they were slamming him for doing the same thing.
Well, look, the fact of the matter is the Obama administration has been rather light on executive orders. This is not an administration that ranks very high in the history of the United States in executive orders. The business about a lawsuit and talk of impeachment is pathetic. Yes, it's been taken advantage of in a political way, the talk of impeachment by the Democratic Party.
They are pushing it now.
But it was initiated by the Republican Party. It is a very, very sad spectacle, and history will look back on this Congress with a very, very critical eye and be...
But David,
I disagree. Let me just say the House Republicans passed legislation Friday night that is, in my view, very good legislation that deals with the border crisis. It is actually addressed to the border crisis. It increases the National Guard. It makes it easier to deport people.
Well, you know what the Senate would say, Bill? The Senate say we did it a year ago.
I'm sorry, wait a second. The Senate bill does not deal with the actual border crisis. You can like comprehensive immigration reform or not. The House passed legislation that deals with the border crisis and addresses the executive order. The President issued an executive order 2 years ago that has backfired and has been disastrous.
But
it has been a magnet. It has been a magnet with those undocumented young people becoming here without the executive order.
There is a huge problem here, and the people who are in charge of solving it are the President, the House, and the Senate. And, you know, they ought to all get back to Washington and do their job.
And the House passed legislation, and the Senate didn't.
Terrific. And you know what should happen? The Senate should be back in session. They should vote on it, send it to conference, and let it be resolved. The President should be showing leadership. It's this is like a classroom where the teacher leaves the room, and all of a sudden there's upheaval in the classroom. The President's not showing any leadership. Instead, he says, "I'll just go on my own." Well, that's not how democracy is supposed to work.
Well, and Greta, I agree with you that both the Senate and the House should be working right now to get this done, but the fact is they're not.
And the President, he should be leading them.
The fact is the President has been trying to work with the Congress for the last 2 years to pass comprehensive immigration reform. Now, if the House had taken up the Senate bill, which would have passed, there are enough votes right now that if you put that on the floor, it will pass. That bill will pass. We would have been able to avoid some of the problems that we're seeing now with this border situation. You'd have more border patrol, you would have more judges to speed up the process, and a lot of that crisis that we're seeing now wouldn't be happening.
You would have more of a magnet for people to come north. Amnesty. It turns out that amnesty is a magnet.
These folks don't qualify for DACA. You know that under this executive order, these folks do not qualify for DACA.
But they saw that the previous generation of people who came in were amnestied, and they think they're going to be amnestied.
And that's why,
amnesty is a magnet, I think.
The cartels and coyotes are trying to encourage them to make $7,000 or $6,000 to get them here. But look, we're not going to set our policies based on what coyotes and cartels do. We're going to go to Central America and dispel those myths. And that's what the President's been working on.
David Remnick, Greta says the President should show leadership here, but it does seem, if you look at the range of legislation over the last 2-4 years, no hope that anything is going to get done.
No, I think he's pretty stifled. It's frustrating.